Hello again. Welcome back to my breakdown series of songs from my album. And today we're looking at Halcyon. So, Halcyon is a very interesting song on the album because to me it does add a lot of diversity to it. And it is the only track that is considered an instrumental that has drops. So, and I really wanted to have a song like that on the album that was just really different, not something that I would usually do. And with the help of my friend Jack, he goes by Vari, a really good friend of mine, he did help me kind of realize some of the ideas that I had for this track. And he obviously took some writing credit and some splits on the back end. But because we already had the Metamorphosis collab as the last track on the album, we decided to have this as also a collab. Didn't really make a lot of sense, but he did do some work on this. Specifically the first drop kind of melody that was kind of a lot of his kind of his baby right there. But otherwise, a lot of the intro writing was something that I really established early on with this track. I've always been a fan of songs that have these really long intros that are, very dramatic too, and they kind of start with just like the smallest of sounds and then they really just kind of expand, and there really is no like typical, breakdown and then build. It just kind of goes into a build and then into a drop. And that to me was what I really wanted to do with the track on the album. And that ultimately is what became of Halcyon. So, as usual, let's take a look at the writing first and then we'll go from there. So for this song, I would say the progression of the entire track, it is pretty much just the same all the way through. Outside of some stuff with the very beginning of the track, because it does kind of just repeat a couple notes here. And there's a couple reasons for that. At one point, I'm going to go into kind of how I did the continuous mixing of tracks on the album. But part of that is with continuous mix is that I wanted things to overlap, but obviously you don't want to have like a song end and then literally have the next song start at the same time and then it's already like introducing new sounds and stuff, because where do you set your cut point essentially between those two tracks? So for Halcyon, there's just a little bit of an extra section here where it really is just kind of, it almost sounds like it's like looping essentially before it really starts to kind of open up and then, go from there. So at the beginning, it's just kind of doing this E, G sharp thing. Yeah. Really atmospheric, really just like I don't know how you describe that. It's just really just kind of like awe inspiring or something like that. Um, but I love that kind of thing, even if it doesn't stream absolutely the best. So for this intro, there are really no chords playing here, but it's really just like bass and then melodies and atmosphere. But in this song, I did make some layers with my Moog synth here, just kind of following this bass here. This is just like a standard, just wide kind of synth thing. But most of it, I would say, is this Moog here. A couple layers left, right, panned, just to have like a really nice, just awe kind of a bass here. But then beyond that stuff, there's these melodies here. Really subtle. Yeah, and then this. And then in the beginning part, there's also these other kind of textury sounds here. Yeah, this is probably my favorite. It's basically just like this car vocal hook thing. But then just it has this like kind of a I don't know, like an echoey kind of sound, but it's just like a really high, just like airy kind of a noise. But to me, this really does help to just develop that kind of intro atmosphere that I was going for. And then there was some like vocal blowout stuff here. These vocals, I want to say, I can't remember what track they're from, but all these layers, uh, I think I had a lot of takes of whatever this song was, and I ultimately just kind of repurposed it as this break atmospheric thing. And because of all the layers, it just kind of naturally has this like kind of chorus sound to it. So it felt kind of nice here for this for like this part of the build. And then there's some of these looping kind of sounds here. And this is just probably off of, I'm pretty sure off of Splice. And then this sound, this is Contact. Ashlight, very high piercing kind of a sound here. But that to me just, it kind of goes along with that little car thing I have here. Just a lot of high tinkly kind of sounds, so. Yeah, this eerie sound definitely is doing a lot in this section. There's a lot of there's a lot of dissonance in this part right here. It's not the note that you would expect that to go to, but again, because it's an instrumental, I'm not really worried about clashing with the vocal. So, having writing that is like kind of edgy like that to me is just feels really nice. Oh, and then to mention too, so this intro, this progression, it's just it's almost following just like a two-note thing with a little bit of like a passing chord, passing bass note at the end of it. Just kind of going to an E and C sharp. I would say this song is, I would say we're also in, I don't know actually. I think we're in probably just like E minor or C sharp, but because this song does continuously mix between Lightning in the Dark and then Used to Be So Strong, it definitely is relative to those songs, which are definitely in G sharp minor. So yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes like you can kind of interpret like how a song is written, like based on the chords in different ways. This could be like a Lydian kind of thing even, but we'll just call it something C sharp or G sharp minor. So, and then just fast snare and kick. Yeah, and then you get to the drop there. I will say the side shading in this, it's kind of fucked right now, but the thing is whenever I finish a track and I stem it out, when I have the stems in a session, that's when I typically will go through and clean up a lot of side chaining. So that build might feel a little pumpy, but that's just because this is just the raw project. And then when I say like this is like an instrumental, it's mostly an instrumental in the sense that like the vocal, it's just like a hook with some extra little ad-libby things at the after that. And then I guess to mention it, so this vocal is a vocal that Allie, who used to go by Kayla, or she still kind of does, but is now part of the Arcturians. This is a vocal that she wrote for a really bad song of mine, like 7-8 years ago now. And I always loved the vocal. And for this song, it felt right to use it for this track. And I think we were basically in the same key. So, but The hook of it was open all the blinds, let in all the light, and then I just used that let in all the light part as like a hook, and then some of these things that come in after this like like right here. No, that's not it. Where are we? This. Yeah, that was like part of the of that hook that she wrote for that track originally, and I just used it as like a little kind of filler thing here. So, but that was nice. And again, for this song, for the album, it was really nice to kind of break out of this like vocal dependent thing where I would just always be writing tracks that just had full top lines and just kind of have a little bit more fun and experimentation going on. So getting to the drop, then again, this is where Vari or Jack, he really helped me a lot with it because originally I was kind of doing my typical sustained bass thing, but he kind of helped give the idea of doing this kind of just a choppy 808 and giving this drop like a lot of bounce. Yeah, and then there's just like a little like noise layer with that. To really give that 808 like a lot of buzz to it. And then the lead. Yeah, there's a lot of swing to this, and then also there's a groove applied to this as well, just to give it a lot of just, I guess, swag, really. And then the cool thing that Jack did with this was he basically he like flattened out, like duplicated and flattened out that lead, and then he used it as little fills in here, like reverses and stuff. And the nice thing about that is it kind of adds a lot of like, I would say like kind of chaos to this lead melody, but for this song and for the vibe of it, it feels really nice to have that kind of just extra, just ear candy, just kind of swelling in and coming out, constantly. And it's kind of similar to, if you watch my Lightning in the Dark breakdown where I did that kind of on the channel with reverb and then distortion. This is kind of done in a way where you flatten it out and you just, take the audio clips and just chop it together to kind of create the same effect essentially. But I would say in this song that effect isn't as pronounced. It's just kind of there to just kind of add more just, I don't know, candy. Versus with Lightning in the Dark, it was more kind of like a major like kind of turnaround after each, blip of the melodies essentially. So but then that sound itself is just just straight up saw waves, EQing, echoing, reverb. Yeah, and then just a maximizer there, and then just some grain delay at the end. Yeah, he definitely put this on here. It's not doing a whole lot, but it's there. Let's see what else is going on. I have this here. I'm not sure why that's not playing. Oh, damn. I guess I lost something here. From what I remember, this was just kind of like a mid, kind of like a lead sound here. But I don't know. There's something in Reactor that I did. And then there's this turnaround sound here. Yeah, this. Yeah, I remember this. This is actually repurposed from a very old trap song that I did. I never released it, but this was basically the lead sound of it. And it's kind of a weird set of layers because this is like a really like, I don't know, squeaky kind of a sound. But then when it's all like put together, it works. So, but again, that sound right there is just Omnisphere. Let's see what preset, breaking up. And then, yeah, just some serums, another preset here. And then what we have here? My power lead has another layer to that as well, so cool. Yeah, and then also something to mention too. I know the writing in this drop lead kind of changes halfway through, and to me that is a nice way to keep something fresh. Like little subtle changes like that just help so much with when you repeat writing in a drop, which is pretty standard. It at least does something to kind of make it not be super boring. Right there versus that. And then also halfway through, I do like a little bit of like a, I don't know, kind of like a break, I would say here with some just bass fills here. And then having that come in on the snare there instead of on a kick, essentially. Oops. So that's really the drop. What else is going on here? There's some little texture-y things. Yeah, a lot of fills here. Oh yeah, and then a lot of vocal atmosphere here. Yeah. And this would definitely all be derived from just the vocals, kind of the hook sound. And again, my typical thing is, take something, blast through some reverb, flatten it, and then just start, kind of manipulating it in ways that help to kind of hold atmosphere in a track. Because I love atmosphere. It's actually kind of funny because I know with Jack, he's huge on having really dry drops, but it's kind of it's just a difference of opinion because I kind of think about like the listening experience like on headphones or AirPods, but he's kind of thinking about it from the perspective of, well, in a live venue, having all that everything be really dry helps to cut through a lot, and therefore and also a live venue will have like natural reverb built in, so you don't need to have these kind of sounds, but I like them, and yeah, then also it was my album, so but yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's really just a lot of like melodic fill stuff going on. The lead melody is really carrying this drop, and then just like the cuts of the bass are really doing a lot too. And then in this song, we do have a post drop, and I really love how this feels because again, we have the vocal kind of doing that, but then there are a couple sounds which again are repurposed from some other old tracks that I just really love and happy I was actually able to use them in something that I actually released. So those would be. If I can find it. Here it is. It's just like it's not something that you would expect to ever hear, and I can't think of a song that's done something like this where it's just like a dropping LFO sound, like in a drop section essentially. But to take a look at it, so the first things first is that LFO is definitely not on a clock. It's just running just straight hertz, it's like on hertz essentially. But then there is an LFO trigger to trigger it every time so that it would sound exactly the same every time you play through it. And then this is, we got some omnisphere going on here. Yeah, that's just adding a little bit of like a stab at the beginning of it. But that bass omnisphere sound is, yeah. It's actually that same breaking up preset from that other synth. But yeah, that is running through good old LFO tool. And this kind of shows how old what I pulled this this channel from a different project. I was still using like LFO tool. Nowadays, I would be doing this with just Shaperbox because you can do exactly the same thing and have it not be set to like a grid for like the LFO, and then you can automate that, and then you can also retrigger it as well. But it was sounded fine with LFO tool, so obviously I just left it. But that sound Oops. Yeah. There's a little bit of a pitch shifter going on here too. That actually is doing a lot. So it's just kind of dropping it down and then dropping it back up. And because of how high it is, it's like in terms of the actual note it's playing, it really isn't that important. It's just because it's just so high. So, but it has a really nice texture to it because it just has like a nice place in the mix of the song, I would say. Because without it, it's really boring, but with it, and then bringing back some of the intro sounds here. And then there's like this like heavy overtone playing with the bass here. And then also remember this was something that I think Jack wrote this out. I kind of produced it up more and I did it with Contact and stuff, but it's just this like simple, just again, it's a like 2-note or melody thing that has like a short turn at the end of it. And again, that in conjunction with all the other kind of sounds going on here. To me, it's a really pretty post drop, and it's like a nice change up from like the main drop, which is this really bouncy vibe. And then it goes into this more like just sustained, just atmospheric kind of sounds, which I love. So, and then again, bringing back in some of the intro stuff as well here with some vocal effect stuff. Yeah, and then goes to some breaths. Here's that hook. And then, yeah, these are some ad-libs that Kayla did for that original version of the Splines track. And then I just used them as kind of like an atmosphere here. And then this next part. So this song, it goes into a break, kind of a drop. And I think it's the first breaks drop I've done, at least at this BPM. I think a lot of that was inspired by Jack as well, because he's done some like slower, like this like 140 to like 150 like break kind of thing. And it was tricky to get right because again, it's like this drop really needed to be very different from the first one, but it needed to not be forgettable. So there was a lot of thought that went into like just like the lead synths and stuff on this, just to be interesting and really just kind of be a nice like ending drop for this track, I would say. And then the fun thing was with this song is the beginning of it is just it's like bandpass essentially, and I did that with just straight up Pro Q on the master. And I'm pretty sure we carried that all the way through to the master chain with the stems, mostly because it would be too much to just try and like I could have like automated it on like everything, but it was just easier just to leave it on the master, which again I would say is something that like he doesn't shy away from, which is doing effects like that on your master bus. But I tend not to. But in this song, I think we just left it like that because it sounded fine. And it's just kind of like an interesting way to start a drop. It's just being like filtered out like that. But I don't know. It just kind of has like a cool kind of fake out there to me. A lot of RP kind of sounds here. So if I remember correctly, yeah, this is not running on a clock. But on the on this bus here, there is a shaper box that's running on a 16th. And this is something that I borrowed, I remember from my Nurka remix. That song had a lot of like these like ARPy textures, and essentially they were all done in this way where it's like an ARP not running on a clock, but then it's being kind of forced to be on a clock essentially. But when you have that, there's a lot of just kind of cool like textures and blips that you get out of that versus it just being like a straight up 16th note ARP kind of a sound. Then we have some other stuff here. Yeah. This is that main sound you hear. Yeah, this is, yep, another use of the C3 Bark preset that I've used in some other songs. And that's just layered with, yeah, just some basic serum. Pretty simple, you know, I would say, you know, what makes it interesting is just the sound of it. And then I guess just like the kind of like staccato feel of that, not so much the melody itself, because it's not anything special. It's just kind of doing this like stuttery kind of thing, kind of following a little bit of the bass line, but nothing too crazy. But yeah, and again, that's all played against a lot of stuff that you kind of hear in the breaks. Yeah, some music ARP sounds. Yeah, and then blow out and stuff on the vocal. Yeah, this is done with yeah, Transgate. Yeah, and then yeah, kind of 8 bars through the drop. This like slidey melody kind of comes in here, and this is all done, I believe, with yeah, pitch bends. And again, kind of like the same like that flute sound that I've used in other tracks, layered with just some serum. This was like an old top lead kind of sound that I've used in the past. Yeah. And then with all these, we're just using auto pan just to kind of create that stuttery kind of a sound to it. Yeah, these are just some melodies just kind of layered on top of each other. Again, this is all recycled from the intro and then the break. So yeah, and then I mean, I think the thing to mention with the drums is, yeah, the main drums are, you know, programmed. But then, yeah, there's some like shuffle kind of hats going on here with it. I know a lot of cases people will typically just use like a break loop and just have that be layered with like kicks and snares. But I think in this song, it felt right to have it be a little bit cleaner, more separated out. But there's a break loop that does come in like at the ends as like a turnaround. Yeah. So yeah, my first like breaks drop that I've done, and it feels pretty nice, I would say. And then yeah, this kind of melody is repeated once through. This second drop is like a 24 bar drop length, which kind of you know, I've done that before with other tracks. I remember like Melody Now Remix did a 24 bar drop. It just depends really on just how like what feels correct for a song really. And in this case, because that first 8 bars was kind of just more open without those slidey leads, it kind of just worked out nicely. Yeah, and then going into the break after this. It's basically the post-drop writing there, just used as like a breakdown outro kind of a section, I would say. So pretty nice. Let me just make sure or something. Okay. And then now you might be a little bit confused as why do I hear you be so strong in this song, in this project? And that is because this is probably the most overlap I have on the album in terms of like the continuous mix thing. And again, I'll get into it more in a future video, but the biggest thing here is, layering basically the final waves of both tracks in a separate project. And then when you render it, you render out sections of the songs that are actually overlapped is essentially is the intention here. And so that's why in this, at the very top, there's this used to be so strong render here. And this has the elements that are in that project that, that would, be layered with parts of this song in here. So if we just like skim this really quick. Chords. Also the vocal. But as you can hear, though, there's no bass in that, and that's because the bass is still part of this song. If I turn that off, this is what you hear and hear. Yeah. So, yeah. So the chords are in the Used to Be So Song project, but everything else is in this project. Which to me, what's nice about doing this is that when you listen to the album on Spotify, it is absolutely seamless. There's no pops or anything weird with that transition, and that's because again, when I rendered the final masters, things are already overlapping. So when you have that perfect render like end part and render start point, things sound that seamless. The one thing that you have to do though with this is that you have to be careful about BPM changes. So in this song, there's a jump from 140 to 148, and that's just to match the beginning of "Used to Be So Strong" or the whole song because that's all in 148 BPM. So, but yeah, these sounds are pretty simple. Just some noir. I'm pretty sure. Oh, Alicia's keys. I can't remember why I used Alicia's keys there. I'm actually not sure, but yeah, that's Alicia's keys, and then some just gold omnisphere, kind of like a lower octave. This is nowhere though. Yeah, and here it's kind of interesting because there are these like, it's basically like two melodies playing here. But it works, even though there's a little bit of that's like a second there. But it has like a nice, just like textury almost vibe to it with like kind of unexpected like notes and changes throughout that. But it does feel nice though, which I really like. And then let's see what else we have here. Yeah. This I want to say I did this and then I froze it because the BPM change caused issues because when you change the BPM, a lot of times reverbs will kind of behave erratically because the BPM is they kind of derive some of the processing off the BPM. So I think in this case, I'm pretty sure this was rendered. Yeah. Yeah, this was rendered basically twice, once at 140, then once at 148, and then just faded just so that in that way, when there's that BPM change, nothing is like sounding weird there. So, and the last thing I'll mention with this, what's really cool is, Used to Be So Strong is with Ali from the Arcturians, who again did the original Blinds vocals that I used as like a hook for this track. So it was kind of cool that, had these two songs, one written, like kind of during the process of writing the album, and then the other song being this one was written, 7, 8 years ago, but still the same singer. And, it's kind of nice to have that, we're friends to this day essentially. So, but yeah, I think that's Halcyon. You know, Song that adds a lot of diversity to the album with some help from my friend Jack to kind of, realize some ideas that I had for this track. But yeah, going from here, be sure to stick around for the other breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next video.